Once upon a time, two boys grew up playing hockey in the village of Terrace, British Columbia. One of them went on to play in the National Hockey League. The other became a comedian. Now, one flies planes and coaches youth hockey. The other is still a comedian and owns newsstands. This is their podcast, Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian.
Hello, Jeff. My name is Ian Bagg. The show is called Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian. Even though I talk first, your name comes first. I like it. We haven't been on for a couple weeks. I got busy after you got busy, and then the Edmonton Oilers fired somebody. I was up for the job but didn't get it. How you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, there's lots going on. We're good. Yeah, I think we're almost to the point where we might be able to get back together on a more weekly basis.
I hope so.
Instead of bi-weekly. So
tri-weekly.
Oh my God. Yeah, we
tri-monthly.
We're struggling. Lots going on. Lots going on in the league already. People are jumping all over the panic button. And yeah, I mean, we could start off with what's going on in Edmonton.
Might as well. They're last place, first coach gone, won 2 games. Has anybody ever been fired after winning a game?
I'm sure there have been. Like, I mean,
it's a weird way to go.
Yeah, I mean, hey, he won his last game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, hey, that's how you want to end your season, but you just don't want to end it in November like that.
Yeah.
I just think that Edmonton is they got the cart in front of the horse. It was cup or bust and the Stanley Cup, and we talk about Edmonton all the time, but they were talking about the Cup in July, August, September, October.
Mm-hmm.
The puck hadn't even dropped on the season, and Vancouver just absolutely blitzed them. Vancouver, what did Vancouver play them in 3 of their first 10 games?
3 in their first 2. Two out of their first 3 were Vancouver,
and then they got Vancouver again, I think at the end of October, and Vancouver just found the recipe and exploited it. And we talk about it all the time. It's a copycat league. Teams are going to go back over what they've seen from this organization over the last couple of years. First of all, they're probably going back and watching what Colorado did to them in the conference finals. They're definitely going back and looking and seeing what Vegas did to Edmonton last year in the playoffs. And then all of a sudden, Vancouver took that and put it on steroids. They were trying to implement a new defensive system, which obviously is taking a little bit of time to take root. And now you've got a different coach in there. He seems like he's a pretty even-keel guy. They've had young guys. They've had old experienced guys behind the bench. And now you've got a guy that has a deep relationship with upper management. He has some good experience. I like the fact he was coaching in Hartford, American Hockey League, and his name's Chris Knobloch. So, and he had McDavid.
He was up for the Rangers job. They didn't. It was one of those things where, well, you got to kind of expect him to see him go because he doesn't get the Rangers job, and then Laviolette actually gets the Rangers going better than they were. So he wasn't moving up in that system for a long time.
Well, you can only, I mean, Cassidy says it with the Knights all the time. You can only do so much when the pucks drops. The players are going to, on them. And I mean, I don't think there's a coach in the league that doesn't feel the pressure of every minute of every game, but we're going to have to see what happens because Edmonton is starting again here. What are we? They've got 60 some games left, right? So there's lots of time for them. I would say they're one of
lots of time.
Like you look at San Jose and they're toast, right? There's
not a lot of time.
So
not a lot of time for
it's unfortunate and it's bad for the league, but Edmonton is not one of those situations. So what I think I would suspect he'll do in Edmonton is first of all build relationships with these guys. The good news is he's got a relationship with their superstar McDavid right away because McDavid played for him in junior. And then to me, it's like, hey guys, one game at a time. Let's just get back to 500. Let's just play our way back to 500. And then let's just from there, let's just keep building. And I wouldn't even be thinking. Obviously, they're talking about Stanley Cup up there, but I would be just trying to get the water out of the
500.
boat, and get it back to 500, and then go from there. So the goal, I think, in Edmonton would be by late November or early December, be back at or above 500, and then you're right in the thick of it again.
Dave Manson was their defensive coach that was fired. A lot of guys like him a lot, and he's done a lot with guys in his playing years. Did you ever play against him?
Yep. I have a story about Dave. My first year in junior, we were out and he was with Prince Albert. And Prince Albert always had these rough and
Prince Albert in a can? Did you have Prince Albert in a can? Sorry, go ahead. Excuse me, I have Prince Albert in a can. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So I ended up getting in a tussle with one of the Prince Albert guys who were in the penalty box.
A tussle,
we'll call it. And
a disagreement.
Yeah, didn't take too much to get in a disagreement with anyone on that team. They had a tough team. And so we're in the penalty box. And all of a sudden, next shift, of course, because that's how those junior games went back then, boom, there's another tussle in the corner. And it's our tough guy, who's our overage Jeff Fenton, one of the nicest people I ever met. Jeff Fenton. He looked like he could walk right off he was like Tom Brady. That's what he kind of aura he had. He's just this dude that could have walked right off the cover of GQ. But he was really
and he was the tough guy.
But he was a tough guy, yeah.
Wow.
So he was our captain and just a super guy. He could play really well, and he's doing really well in this scrap, and then he's not doing so well, and then it's really not really good, and the fight ends, and he comes to the box, and he's looks a little disheveled, to say the least. And I'm like, hey, good job, Fence, way to go. And this guy leans over the bench. He goes, hey, Fenton, how's it feel to get your butt kicked by a 16-year-old? Like, a 16-year-old? I'm 16. Manson. It was Dave Manson, who,
no way,
16 years old, was running the Western Hockey League. And Dave's a big guy, I think about 6'3". He could skate, shoot, but he was really, really abrasive. And of course, they had Baumgartner there, and they had a bunch of other guys that were legendary.
Awesome. He was abrasive. He was a little brisk.
Yeah, I'm pulling out the $10 words for you. So, anyways, Dave and his boy Josh, who I love watching play, and I've been a big fan of since he was in Anaheim. Now he's in Colorado. And of course, you always watch the guys you played against, keep an eye on their kids. And Josh, Dana's wife, worked with them in Anaheim, right?
Right. Yeah,
and
yeah.
Remember what she told us? She said, Josh is the nicest kid you've ever met, but he's kind of just like his dad. When when he flips the switch, he goes into this super tough guy area that you know, he's he's a really tough kid. So he's just like his dad that way. But anyways, that's my Dave story. He
beating up 20-year-olds at 16.
Yeah, he was 16. And side note to the Mansons, which is, you know, I was really hoping, I don't know Woodcroft at all, but Gully, I know Glenn Gollison up there. I worked with him when he was with the Las Vegas Wranglers. Great guy, really good coach. I was really pulling when we started hearing rumors that Dave was able to stay on up there, because it's been a tough year. He lost his wife this summer.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, unfortunately. And now, you know, he loses his job in Edmonton. So it's been a really rough year for the Manson family. But I think you don't hear anything but great things about Dave. So I'm sure he'll land back on his feet. And maybe this will give him a chance to spend a little bit of time to just kind of regroup, spend some time watching Josh play in Colorado, and wish him the best, because he really was really loved by those players in Edmonton and everywhere he's been.
They let him down. I just don't think he had the talent that I look at Edmonton's defense, and they're just, I don't know. They seem to be not trying to play defense is the problem.
Well, the thing that makes Edmonton tick is they
The love of a
chaotic.
parade.
What's that?
What makes Edmonton tick is the love of the parade.
That might be the best line in 130 podcasts you've ever come up with. That's awesome. The love of the parade. Yes, that's what makes Edmonton tick. I would agree with that. I think we should just end the show now.
Good night. I was going to say no.
That's awesome. Where'd you come up with that one? I guess,
Wow.
you do.
Well, they
you
start so many
with your
parades
mouth,
up there,
so-
right?
Huh?
They start so many parades up there. Like it's on, it's off after every game. It's just, it's on, it's off.
Well,
Take the flowers off.
yeah, I was thinking about that this morning. You look around and they've got the Eskimos and now the Edmonton Elks up there who are really struggling. They're a Canadian football league team, but then they're kind of they're kind of a one man show up there. Like they are
It's their game. That's their team. That's who they So I
in the
understand.
Canadian cities, that's that's the hockey teams are everything. And I got thinking, when it's going good, the wave of energy is amazing. But when it's going bad, it's got to suck. You probably don't even want to go and put gas in your car because someone's going to know who we are and either want to say something to your, talk hockey. And I was like here, for example, in Vegas or another big city, you got F1 here this week. If the Knights go on the road and it's kind of shaky, and it's not all that
things take attention off the team, right?
100%. And it's the same
Casey,
thing in Nashville.
It's like Casey in the Mudville, right? It's if he's striking out, the whole town's down.
Yeah. No, Dallas, you've got the Cowboys going on right now. LA, there's a million things going on.
There's nothing going on here. We got nothing going on.
They're just trying to figure out how to get around that I-10 mess, right?
That's right where I pick up my t-shirts, and I was supposed to pick up t-shirts today. I'm like,
I was wondering if that was down where we were.
Yeah, it's right
There's
there.
no way. Yeah, you better give it a few days. But there's always something going on in a lot of these other cities. And in Edmonton, the Oilers are going on 24/7. And so I don't even know where we were going with all this. But the thing is
we're just going with the struggle of the team and how they just people are on them, and it's just it's hard to get back when you're playing in that town if you're struggling. Like it's okay if you're okay or better, but if you're below okay, it's tough.
Well, I mean,
like
where
even
do you
Ottawa,
go? I guess
even Ottawa
like
struggling with the same thing, right?
Who is?
Ottawa.
Well, Ottawa. Ottawa, yeah. They are stuck between Montreal and Toronto, so they kind of get a little bit of the shaft there on that. But you're right, Ottawa has had their share of drama this year too. They just lost their first round pick. They got a new owner who seems like he's just right up front with, hey, we're changing the way we're doing things. We don't like the penalty. They lost their first rounder because of the Dadonov trade years ago to Vegas, and they didn't.
One that was called back. Why did explain to me? Were they the ones that didn't put in the paperwork? Is that why they lost it? So that's what happened there, right?
Yes.
So,
hey, was it Mallard? Mallard was talking about that. You know what? Mallard was talking about that on his own show. I listen to Mallard's own show about once a month, and he was talking about Dorian. And what happened was one of the things that Pierre Dorian was really known for was scouting. And if you look at some of the guys they've got there in Ottawa, they've got some really good young players. On the managerial side, maybe not so much. So for people who don't know, Ottawa traded Evgeny Dadonov to Vegas, and there was no strings attached, right? Well, the thing is the player had a 10-team or 7-team no trade list. It didn't matter because Vegas wasn't on that list until Vegas went to trade him to Anaheim, and Anaheim was on Dadonov's no trade list a couple of years ago. So the NHL did an investigation because they approved the trade, then they rescinded the trade that was at the trade deadline, And what ended up happening was they found out that Ottawa had never submitted the Dadonoff's no trade teams to Vegas or the league.
So who gets that? Who gets their draft pick? Does Vegas get that draft pick?
No. I think just the next team up gets it. I think they just
everybody moves up. I was just wondering.
Wondering
because it caused a problem with Vegas if they were going to get that draft pick.
No, not that I know of. But one of the cool things that the new owner in Ottawa said, he said, you know, that's not how we do business around here. So the day after or the day of the NHL taking away the draft pick from Ottawa for this year, or I think they have 3 years. They can either lose it this year, next year, 2024, 25, or 26, I think. And he said that's not how we do business, because we not only made ourselves look poor, but we also embarrassed two other teams in the league, in Anaheim and Vegas, and the league in general. So I was like, wow, that's, you know, guy's coming up. He's an above board guy. So you keep
Take responsibility,
Ottawa, right?
Yeah. If somebody takes responsibility, you know, they don't blame other people and they say, hey, this, you know, it's our fault. We'll change things, make it better. You gotta root for them that way.
Yeah, for sure. And you got to root for Ottawa, but they're stuck between a rock and a hard place out there. The Canadians are starting to get some life. The Leafs are always going to draw some kind of circus, like, you know, attention.
Definitely the press. All the press.
So Ottawa kind of falls in with Winnipeg in the fact
that's funny,
the press they get in Canada, right?
I never thought of that. Winnipeg is Ottawa West.
Yeah, Winnipeg is and you know, Winnipeg's. We watched them come through here a few weeks ago. They got on a little bit of a roll, and Dallas went in there and stung them the other night. But Winnipeg's doing just fine. And this is all with Rick Bowness, their head coach, who's had to step away because his wife had some health problems. So, you know,
is he back yet? I don't know if I didn't read if he was back yet. I don't think he is,
not that I know of. And so they're just taking
Scott Arneal.
His wife,
Scott Arneal's running it right now.
Yeah, Scott Arneal and his wife, Rick Bowness's wife, is supposedly doing much better, which is great news.
Yep. Good to hear.
Yes.
Good to hear. Let's see. Let's talk about our favorite Western team, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Benching Johnny Gaudreau. This has got to be the most stars that have ever been benched in 1 year before the end of November. Like, everybody seems to be getting benched. Like that Huberdeau and Gaudreau. That's what I noticed. That was Huberdeau went to Calgary. Gaudreau went to Columbus, and both of them have not really fit into their teams the way they thought they would. Right.
Well, I mean, they're trying to make a run up the Western Conference standings, right? So Columbus.
Douche.
If you look at how the league, you know, you've got a couple teams that are done right already, but the rest of these guys are all kind of trying to figure out how to step on the gas. And you're looking at this huge investment you have, and you're trying to figure out how to maximize it. And I'm talking about Huberdeau and Gaudreau. And yeah, they haven't really turned out. I don't know if the word's turned out, but they haven't played up to expectation yet. So what do? Right? I mean, when you bench someone, you basically embarrass them and you call them out, but you're also calling out the rest of the team going, hey, you know what? If this guy's not going to do it, we need you guys to do it. And in Calgary, they responded in one game. Columbus, there's a lot going on there because they had their issues at the start of the season when they had to let go Babcock. So, and they can't keep on bumping along the bottom. They got to start to get off the bottom and start to come up. And Columbus spent money to try and be better. Calgary spent the money to try and, like, when you lose Gaudreau and you lose Tkachuk, you bring in Uyghur, you bring in Huberdeau, and they got the one other prospect. So the first thing they try to do is tie those guys up long term to appease the fan base. Go, hey, whoa, everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, everything's fine. Nothing to see here. Everything's fine.
Exactly. Oh, we're just going to keep going. Well, they brought in Kadri too. Now all of a sudden, everybody looks at Calgary and goes, what has happened with this team? And And Huberdeau, if he could even get to 3/4 of what he was, I think they're right on the cusp of playoff team. If he can get back to 85, 90% of what he was, they are a playoff team. Columbus, I think Johnny could get 115 points, and I'm not sure Columbus makes the playoffs, but they have to start trending in the right direction because some of the young drafts they've picked up are really good players. So there's panic in both cities, and that's just, so what do? They last resort, they bench their superstar and hope that motivates or snaps them out of whatever.
It wasn't too long ago, though, if you bench somebody like a higher up, that was the last time you ever seen them in that jersey.
100%. Like if you
it's changed, the benching's changed. It seems like that's going to be actually not a weapon, but I just know another thing that they're going to be using this year. Not you're done. It's not a nuclear bomb anymore. It's more of a weapon, right?
If you did it back in the day, I mean, and the other thing that they did back in the day is they'd send you down. And they'd put you down on what was called recallable waivers. So they'd be like, yeah, you know what? We're gonna make a point out of this guy. We're gonna show everybody, and they're gonna send you down. And they put you on recallable waivers. So if someone called you or claimed you, they could recall you. So you can't do that anymore. But I'll give you another example of a team that's having a great season, and not as drastic, but Rick Tocchet benched JT Miller in Vancouver for part of a period. I think it was the second period or at maybe the end of the first period. He benched him for 4 or 5 shifts, and then he put him right back out there. And Miller went out and has carried on.
He seems like that kind of player where you have to reboot him every so often, right? Miller.
Yeah, I think
like he's so good, but it just seems like I don't know, it just needs a reboot every once in a while, and then he goes.
I think you got to kind of remind some of the players sometimes who the boss is, even if you're really not the boss. Tocchet's got that organization in the palm of his hands, right? So everybody's listening. Even though JT Miller's got a 7 or 8 year deal there and he's going to make really good money, Tocchet was able to do just enough to tweak him to bring him back. He's going to go off the grid once in a while. That's just the kind of player he is. He's an emotional guy, but Rick Tocchet seems to have the pulse on him, and he didn't need to bench him for an extended period. He just had to get his attention. And a lot of times when a guy runs hot like that, it's just having him settle down on the bench for a few minutes. And so it's kind of interesting, right? JT Miller comes back out, huge part of what the Canucks are doing. Huberdeau struggling. Johnny in Columbus, not up to the Johnny Gaudreau we saw in Calgary, at least not to this point.
What do you think? Gaudreau is like a top 20 player in the league? Top 10 player in the league? What do you think?
I mean, his mind offensively, he's probably top 10. I don't know if I'd go top 20, but
I'm just trying to think when you've seen somebody of that caliber last benched.
I don't know. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, I couldn't see John Cooper benching Kucherov right. But they've won, right? They've won. Johnny was a huge part of the success in Calgary. They weren't able to get over the hump. Now he goes and he's there to help resurrect Columbus. And they can't
even get on the hump in Columbus.
Yeah, no,
it's crazy. How about how long's John Cooper? Like, speaking of Woodcroft getting fired, right? Mm-hmm. Cooper's been in Tampa for 10 years, like around 10 years, and he's able to kind of keep that, hasn't lost that room yet. That's got to be some sort of modern day record. I like Belichick would be the only other coach that I would think would been in with one team that long.
Well, Cooper, I'm trying to think around the league right now, and I'm sure there's someone there that's outlasted him, but maybe not. He might be the longest tenured coach in the league right now, because you've got I don't know how long's Brendamore's been in. How long's Brindamore been in Carolina? He's been there a while.
Maybe it's 6 years.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess John Cooper might be the longest tenured coach in the league. Which
You got to think your job's really close to being done when you're the most tenured coach in the league. You got to be. We're going to be wrapping this up pretty soon.
Yeah, they all know they're hired to be fired, right? So I love what he's done there. He's a great interview. He seems to have portray a calmness about him and what they're trying to do. And I think that's a huge thing is when the players see that the coach, whether he believes it or not, they just need to believe what he's telling them. They have a path forward. Now, remember, Columbus, Tampa was blessed in some areas that maybe some of the other teams aren't. First of all, their goaltender was the best goalie in the league. But then they had Hedman, they had Chernak, they had McDonough when they were winning the Cups. They have Sergachev, who they made the trade from Montreal with. So you've got a great foundation. Plus you have Stamkos, Kucherov, Point, who's really unsung.
Really good.
You had Kaloran, and then you had guys like that's not there anymore, but Colton and guys you could plug in. And so he didn't really have to worry about his top end guys because the identity of the team never really left, or they didn't get injured for long periods of time. So now they're dealing with injuries, right? Vasilevsky has been out to start the season. So I bet you he's coached a lot harder this year than he's probably had to in the past. And the cool thing about Tampa is it didn't really matter what they did during the season. You just didn't want to see them in the playoffs, right? That's kind of how it is with them now. They're getting a little long in the tooth. Another guy there is Cirelli, right? Really good player over a long period of time for them. So I can't think of another team out there. I mean, I would think Colorado might fall into that where it's like, they might not have the greatest year, but you don't want to see them in the playoffs. Maybe
right.
Vegas, but Vegas has run out to the front again. I think Dallas is probably a team you don't want to see in the playoffs. But if you're going to try and win it, you're going to have to see someone. So
Toronto might turn out to be a team you don't want to see in the playoffs.
Well, my issue with Toronto is I watched them play the other night. I watched them play a little bit recently. They kind of gave it to the Canucks pretty good.
When they get playing like that, they could be like a really good team. Like when I listened to them play to Canucks the other night, I'm like, huh. Mm-hmm. Like there's no give up in them the other night. So
no, they stuck.
They were down 6-1. They were down 6-1 penalties, right?
Yeah, they took a lot of penalties. Vancouver got the hop on them.
Yeah.
But think of it this way: when's the last time that Toronto, and this is a real positive for them, Matthews and Marner really weren't a big part of that game? Like I don't remember them having these incredible opportunities. Now, conversely, for the Canucks, Hughes and Pettersson didn't play all that great.
They're horrible.
Toronto was able to get their depth, and that Nylander is just out of this world. So they rely on their depth. The thing in Toronto, I think they have to keep an eye on is they're going to need some help on the back end on their defense. I just think they're a little bit they could be taken advantage of a little bit in their own zone. I mean, but if you got a guy like Giordano, 40 years old, playing like he did the other night, all bets are off. Anything's possible, right?
It's pretty crazy. Yeah. When he's playing like that, apparently, the Russian kid in Calgary that wants to be traded wants to go to Toronto, and it was
Zadorov,
right? And apparently, it happened during the game. Somebody said, "Hey, you look really good over here. You should try to get traded here." So he took it as I needed to be traded.
Yeah, I don't know.
I love that.
Calgary. We'll touch on them one more second. So there's trouble in paradise. And what do? Calgary, their defense is I don't know if it's as good, but it's an upper echelon defense in this league. Like you've got Anderson, you've got Zadorov, you've got Hanifin, you've got Tanev. Those guys are top 4D, right? They're all really good. I don't know what's up with Shillington, if he's coming back or not, and then Uyghur, right? So you actually have guys that are really established NHL defensemen. So the brass in Calgary has got to be pulling their hair out, trying to figure out how to get this thing on the tracks, because
it might be good to get rid of Zadorov and go to Toronto and see what you can pull out of there.
Well, you need, by the looks of it, in Calgary, you probably need some goal scoring, but again,
that's what I'm saying. Like, aren't they trying to get rid of like Marner or something? Like, who are they trying to get rid of over there? Don't they need some cap room?
Well, I mean, they could try and get rid of some of those guys, but I don't know who could take them on. So, but
Calgary's got a lot of room, do they not? They got a quite a bigger.
Well, most of these teams are up against the cap.
I thought Calgary was down, but not close to it. I thought they had a lot of room still.
I don't know. Hey, you know what?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't care.
I know.
I don't care how much cap space they have, because they got what they got right now, and they got to figure it out.
Jeff hates Toronto.
No, I don't hate Toronto. I'm talking about Calgary. Toronto.
Put you back on your
skate. I told you what I thought about Toronto. I know. Yeah. Hey, and would I like to see, like, we grew up, right? I still remember the night Daryl Sittler, what did he get? 11 points, right? So, I mean, we all grew up watching Leafs, and I'd like to see them do well. Again, I'm just saying, with the Leafs, I think you're going to need a little bit more buy-in on your defensive side of the game. And I don't know if they want to do that. I think they're going to be really formidable. But then another team we haven't even talked about today that just kind of keeps on winning and going along is Boston.
Yeah, we haven't talked about them. Yeah, they are winning, aren't they? They're quietly.
Yeah, and, I mean, they got great goaltending. There's just, they call it the Patriot way with the New England Patriots. Well, there's also the Bees, the Bruin way, right? You put that jersey on and you become a different kind of player. And they seem to always find what they need, whatever space they got to plug. Remember, they've
got good culture there.
Well, the Hall of Fame, they lost Bergeron and Krejci. Like, you show me another team in the league that could lose two center icemen with that kind of pedigree and still be competitive. That's impressive to show you. Yeah. So
that's really impressive. Yeah, I haven't really been paying attention to them much, because, as we said, they're quietly moving to the league while other noise is happening. I get attracted to that other noise sometimes, and Boston is just doing what Boston does. So I haven't paid attention. So
yeah, you're not surprised, right? When they're right up there, you're like, oh yeah, Boston's there.
Yeah, but that's where they should be about there. Yeah.
And if you think of the players that they've lost over the last few years that have made a huge impact on an organization, they just keep going on. But
they shouldn't be there, right? Yeah. They shouldn't be where they are. So,
well, they do what they need to do, and just kind of I think obviously Boston should be out, and they will be, I believe, one of the top teams in the East throughout the year. But as you look around the league, like, you've had some teams go off and run away a little bit. We haven't talked about the Kings, but then, who have had a great start. But then you look at, I'll give you two teams that I've been watching a little bit lately, Nashville and St. Louis, and they sputter a bit and then they go well, and they sputter a bit and they go well. It's going to be really interesting to see which team comes out of the pack as the year goes on, because
which of those two,
like which, and what's Winnipeg going to do? There's another one. Like, I think Winnipeg's got an opportunity to make a run up in behind Dallas for second in that division, give Colorado a push. I think Dallas wins the division, but there's these teams like Dallas, Vegas, LA, Vancouver, Boston, I think probably you look at the Devils as a team that's going to be out there. And then you've got this other group of teams that you wonder, where do they fit in? And with the piece here, piece there, are they able to kind of climb the hill as the year goes on? And it's funny, we would have thought we'd have been talking about Edmonton being a top team. They're not there yet, but
that's what's great about it, right? That's what's great about sports, is what you think might happen doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So that's what that. If not, there's no point in watching if everybody's just going to do what they're supposed to do.
Well, think about this. Everyone kind of threw dirt on Chicago, and there's Bedard.
They're doing pretty good too,
doing their thing, and they're not out of it, right? And everybody, like, really, I think the only team you could really look and say is out of it is San Jose right now.
They'll come back. Don't worry about it.
Okay, so we've been going on forever here, but anything else you want to chat about?
No, let's get it wrapped up. I would want to bring. I sent you something this morning. I don't know if you looked at it. There's a 747. There's a 747 flying with the horses on it, and one of the horses got out of its stall and was running around the 747, and they had to land. How terrifying would that have been?
Well, just think about it, because I have a history with being around thoroughbred horses. I'm not sure what kind of horses these were from my wife's dad.
Right.
And
I'm guessing it's a thoroughbred. If it's being flown around at 747, I'm guessing it's going to Saudi. They're taking them over there or something, right?
Yeah, it's going. Yeah, I have no idea how you control one horse. And when that horse got out and started freaking out, I don't know if the trainer was able to save the day right away and get a bucket of oats for it or something. I have no idea. But those horses, once they start freaking out the other horses, I mean, it could have been, I'm sure it was pandemonium back there, but how they were able to keep a lid on things.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they do for those horses.
They must have sedated. I would have thought they would have been all sedated right flying, but they must have had some sort of sedation that they were able to give it. That's the only thing I think.
And you know what? You got to be careful with horses, because you get this big, beautiful 1,500-pound animal, and if it gets a hangnail, it's out 6 to 8 weeks. I mean, these things are, you got to be careful with the medication you give them too. So it's crazy, but I don't know how we brought that into a hockey podcast.
It was like the most interesting story I've seen on the news today. I was just like, wow, that could have been trouble for everybody.
Well, if it was a smaller plane, I don't know if they, I mean, a 747 is a big piece of iron. There's lots of room inside of there. I can't imagine, like, I don't imagine that those things could get up towards the flight deck where they're kicking a door in. But right. I certainly wouldn't want to be one of the trainers in the back that was just thinking they were going to have a nice 9 to 10 hour flight over to the Middle East or wherever they were going to Europe. And all of a sudden, this thing hops the fence and decides it's time to run.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty crazy. Anyways, any shout outs this week?
Yeah. I'm going to shout out our old friend Mallard. I'm going to shout out his podcast, because we're getting back to pushing other people's podcasts. Because if you're not going to listen to us, listen to someone else. So Mallard just had the chirp, and
hold on for him. Hold on. This is the best. That's the best thing is it. If you're not going to listen to us, listen to somebody else.
Hey, we're not begging you to do it, right? We're just here to give you generally incorrect information on hockey.
That's right.
That's what we're all about, with a little bit of pizzazz once in a while, a little flair.
But so you might be able to go to a party or two.
Yeah, with your. And look at us repping today. You got the Rockets. I'm representing the Jets for
the Rockets.
So anyways, the Chirp podcast, I want to get that out there, because my shout out this week is to the Anaheim Ducks head coach, Greg Cronin. If you want to listen to and get to know a little bit and a little insight into how an NHL coach at 60 years old thinks and how he's got the Anaheim Ducks going this year, please listen to that. I think it's phenomenal. I would recommend it to anybody who's a hockey fan, a player, or a coach. And I'm sure
I'm going to take a listen to it. I'm going to take a listen to it too.
Yeah, I can't. I talked to Mallard about it. We'll have Mallard on. I'd actually love to have Greg on one day, and we'll see if we can get him. But just listen to this guy talk, and I just was like, wow, it was motivating for me. I played against Greg in the minors. He was a rough and tumble character, and he's got the Boston accent. You can just tell he's tough by listening to him, but he is reinvented himself at 60 years old. And you're like, oh, at 60 years old, the game's getting ready to pass you by. I think this guy is part of the new wave at 60. So that's why you got to get up in the morning. And you never know what's going to happen. And so Greg Cronin, he's on the Chirp podcast. Since we don't have a guest this week, kind of pretend like
he's our guest.
He's our guest through Mallard. And I think it's great. So there's my shout out to Greg Cronin and what a great job he's doing and motivating people with the Ducks organization and people around in his orbit.
I did a show on Sunday night in Hermosa Beach, and Jim Hiller came out.
Mhm.
Dana sent Jim Hiller, so I had a good talk with him afterwards. He said to say hi to you. He knew about your career. I think he said he may have played with you someplace. I can't remember. He's around your our age, in between our ages or something. Anyways, a really nice guy, and he was so curious about how I was doing this. He's just like, look, I really had a good time, but exactly how did this happen? It was just like, you went from Terrace to where? He was very. He grew up in Cranbrook, Creston area.
Yeah.
So yeah, good talk to him. And then I didn't recognize our friend Chris Chinook, who works with Dana. I was like, now what do you do? He goes, hey man, it's me. And I'm like, oh, sorry, you're not. You know when people aren't in the right place.
Yeah.
I meet so many people, and sometimes they're just not. I place people where they're supposed to be, and he was not in the right place, and I just felt horrible. So I want to give Chris a shout out. So
Well, how about when they are in the right place and you can't place them?
that's called time to go to bed.
I had one of the hockey moms come up to me yesterday, and she started talking to me. I'm like,
Who the
and
hell are you?
son? She goes, Colton. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, Amy. I was like, we must have been talking for 30 seconds. I'm like, I could not place it. I'm like, I'm sorry, Amy, that's on me. But you know what's cool is you got to tell Jim, you got to tell him you were driving a mining truck with explosives. So you had to make a decision.
Yeah. Yeah. I had to make, am I going to do this or am I going to do something else? Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy when you look back at that. I was delivering dynamite, and I just like made a bunch of money and took off to Vancouver to go to college. And I didn't go to college. I went and did stand up. So
where were you going to go to college?
I was going to take
Absent.
mining. No, I was going to take mining.
At UBC?
Yeah. I had to get a bunch of stuff, like, upgrade a bunch of stuff. And that's what I was going to do. I was going to go back and do mining and blasting. So.
Wow. Because
and then I went and did
smart kids go, right? That's
yeah.
Smart kids go. So that's why I had to ask UBC, because
no, it was way over my head. So thank God this worked out. I'm not my sister, my sister's smart. I'm not. So
yeah.
Well,
yeah, we better shout out our friends from UBC too.
And Jocelyn came down to Sacramento this weekend, and she hung out. What? So yeah. Right, yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had a good Jocelyn Bagg coming down to Sacramento, hanging out. Yeah. Good time.
Okay, well, we might or might not. Hey, tell everyone you're going to be in Seattle this weekend. What dates?
I'm in Seattle, 17th, 18th, 16th. I'm going to the Kraken game with Trevor Henry. You might show up, but you probably won't.
If I can swing it, I'll be there.
I think we might have some flying friends of yours coming to the show this weekend too.
Well, I asked if they reached out to you, and they said that they make good money and they don't need freebies. But
I know. I said I said I can get you some tickets, and I only have one superpower, and that's I can give free people tickets when I want to give free people tickets, and when they don't ask for them, I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, you might be giving more tickets out than you thought, because I might have offered to some other people, but they haven't got back to me, so don't worry about it.
Well, we've sold out some. I think we sold out 3 out of 4, so that's pretty good. So
okay, so you're doing 2 shows on the 17th and 2 shows on the 18th,
and
you're leaving on the 19th.
I'm leaving I'm in Boise on the 19th.
Okay.
Yeah, it's big weekend, and then next week we've got.
And don't say Boise, say Boise.
Hey, so I did a last Sunday, Richard called me up and said, hey, do you want to do Hermosa next Sunday? And they put the tickets on sale on Monday, and I sold out by Friday.
Such a big deal. Just think all this, and you didn't go to UBC. I don't know how you're.
I know. I should have. I need to do math now. Can't.
All right. That's good.
All right.
Okay.